Urga. I was hoping the doggy would attend. Doggy's my friend. He's really perceptive, I think. Yeah. It's interesting how you can...
Must have some sukriti from previous lives.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can see just in their eyes, you know, they know things that really just a dog person shouldn't know so much. What would you do without problems?
Hare Krishna. Well, today is the last day of the programs of Sri Govinda Mela 2025. Tomorrow is just going to be taking down the pandal and bringing everything back to normal. So a lot of devotees have already departed for their homes, but Sripad Bhakti Vigraha Nyasi Maharaj is still gracing us here with his presence, and we're going to humbly request that he share some of his over 50 years now Krishna consciousness.
1969.
Oh my goodness! Wow. So one of the early disciples of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who was also taking shelter of Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, and now continuing to serve, 100% dedicated in the sannyas ashram. So please kindly give him your attention. Jai Sripad Nyasi Maharaj ki jai.
Prabhu, I can't even see the audience you're talking to. You must be some kind of mystic or something. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Hello, cameras. Hey. Okay.
And it's going to be recorded as well.
Facebook person, my Dandabat. Nah, Kartals is okay. I'll just use a short Kartal thing. It's always nice. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam.
Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhu, you want to say for that?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo.
Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo.
Hey Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo.
Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo,
Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Vaya Astatara Sata Shishimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Vaya Astatara Sata Shishimad Srila Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Varya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Samaveta Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Isai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Sripad Bhakti Vigraha Nyasi Maharaj
Ki Jai.
Sri Govinda Mela ki
Jai. I say Jai to Srila Bhakti Vigraha Nyasi Maharaj because somehow or other I'm riding in this not only body but consciousness that somehow or other has been given.
golden way.
This kind of like unbelievable service by the grace of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, and of course coming through Srila Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and for me, actually for all of us, by the grace of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, who, on his own with great difficulty, almost dying a few times, traveling the ocean to bring Krishna consciousness to America. Prabhupada, he took the order of his Guru Maharaj to, such a deep, like heartfelt extent that he was, literally willing to die in the effort to fulfill that instruction. And that, our the possibility of our like remembering that and contemplating that is such an amazing blessing, because it gives us some sight into, some foresight into what our future should be, and indeed will be, by the grace of our beloved guardians and gurus. They're always giving us so much direction and mercy. Once we come in contact, somehow or other, particularly through initiation, through coming, and not only through initiation, but also through coming in contact with, the great Vaishnavas who carry that tradition given to us by our gurus. Just by coming in contact with that, we have a natural awakening, and a door opens for us that otherwise we may not have like any qualification or proper position to be allowed in. But of course that's the like the hallmark of our beloved guardians, that they take us, and based on their qualification and based on their position in relation to all of our predecessor gurus, and ultimately to Krishna himself, based on their position, they request the allowance of our entry, and based on that we get access to these unbelievable, beautiful and high things. The possibility of an unbelievable life free from the encumbrances of material problems and frustrations and everything else that comes along with trying to figure out how to subsist in the material world. It's we learn that the whole material world is set up and designed just to show us that we're in the wrong place. So we shouldn't be surprised if our endeavors that have to do with even just functioning in the material world, that we come up with so many different obstacles and apparent obstructions, and not only apparent, but they're obstructions to living in the material world as a normal place, which basically everyone, because we're eternal souls and we're eternally connected with the Lord, we eternally belong in that place. So naturally we think, given our conditioning and our surroundings, that this is the place where we're supposed to fulfill our inner aspirations and our inner desires. But the problem is it's the wrong place. And to begin to wake up to that that realization is like crucial and key to our understanding and our progress in Krishna consciousness. And it's a constantly like unfolding process, whereby deeper and deeper aspects of both the nature of our conditioning and the nature of the possibility of our auspicious future is revealed to us. So by like, even though like Srila Guru Maharaj used to tell us, just stay on the boat. And I think Prabhupada also told us like that. Just stay on the boat. And the boat is being guided by an expert captain. And that, of course, is our Guru Maharaj. In this case, we have three. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. Somehow or other, this age has like progressed and come about in such a way so that we find ourselves in the midst of what they call a golden age of the age of Kali. Age of Kali is inauspicious, and everything kind of tends towards collapse and degradation. But in the golden age, things are reversed, but reversed only by the grace of the great Vaishnavas who have come to, bring to us that transcendental atmosphere that, they live in and has, they've eternally lived in it. They may have been given it by their gurus. We have no idea what is their position. Generally, as aspiring servants and Vaishnavas, we try to remember or understand that these great souls have come down to us from above. Whatever the mechanism, it really doesn't matter. They've descended themselves, entered themselves into, the difficult situation of the material energy. Even to a large extent, they're aloof from that and immune from that, but still, nonetheless, they've subjected themselves to the external miseries of birth, disease, old age, and death, and pain. And these things come. Even though of course, they live in a world which is so much superior and so much more fulfilling than the world of the material world, but it's not as though they don't experience these things, these pains and difficulties. And, to remember that as Vaishnavas, that my gurus have come subjecting themselves to pain. Why? To help me, to help others. So, what is my position in relation to that, feeling, that understanding? And my relationship, in relation to that is, of course, that my only object, my only reality is to be able to somehow or other come in contact with them and what they're giving to us through the agency of service. And they're so kind that they give us so many avenues of possibilities of service. And, structurally, we find those things in temples. We find those things in the Vaishnavas around us. But also, internally, our gurus know our hearts. They know the nature of our conditioning. And for them, that doesn't really matter because they know the conditioning of the material world. They know how that all works. But their vision is such that they just see, whatever little desire we have to go towards them, to go in the right direction, they see that and, work to enhance that and develop that in us. So really the only qualification is that we just need to want, we just need to try. We need to try to give ourselves in that direction. And sometimes I hear, well, I'm just not very good at trying. My trying is no good or something. But it doesn't work like that. That may be the truth, but the fact is, to whatever level, in whatever consciousness we are, if we make some effort to go towards them, they'll see just that. They won't see our ill motivation and all the entanglement, the material entanglements that come along with our motivations. They just see that we want the real thing. And they reach into our hearts and help us to develop and grow in a realization and understanding of that real thing, that real life, the possibility of a real life, a real spiritual life that is, perceived in our current situation within this body, but nonetheless clearly transcendental, beyond the ups and downs and the frustrations and the limitations of the temporary material body, the temporary material mind, the temporary material intelligence. We're in a covering, and the covering goes from physical to mental to intellectual, and the spirit is there purely, but these external coverings kind of make that that spiritual self kind of hazy and not so clear to understand. But again, the gurus who are living in that plane of spiritual understanding and spiritual realization, they can give us, they can show us that, that understanding. They can give to us the feeling. They can give to us the realization. So, yeah, again, I'm like saying this over and over again, but again, our real hope, our real chance that we have in this material world comes from the fact that they're extending ourselves. We may try. That's the best we can do, is try. But it's not as though you come to a certain point and, you're qualified or something. We're never qualified. We're always fully dependent on that mercy. And how it works in terms of our being able to access the mercy of the great Vaishnavas is, it's mysterious. Maybe it's a mix of something in us, but mostly it's the circumstance that is arranged by their conscious, transcendental, loving hearts. They come to us in like magical, mysterious ways. Sometimes we like when I first came in contact with Krishna consciousness, I heard the Hare Krishna mantra. I was working in Detroit, and somehow or other, I was working in a cadaver lab where they dissected human bodies, and my job was to put the parts of the bodies into, formaldehyde jars, which was pretty bizarre. It was like Krishna set it up, and like, I'm walking home and all of a sudden I hear this, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The devotees had just come to Detroit from like Buffalo, I think. Bhagavan and his wife Krishna Bhamini, and at that time Jagadish and his wife, whose name I forget. But anyway, they had come along with my friend Narottam Das, and to start a temple in Detroit. And, so they, all of a sudden they appeared. And the first few days I felt this my heart was like, you got to avoid this. And so I crossed the street and was, every day I would come up to this corner, and they were down in the middle of the block. And I would always cross at the corner after work, same time every day, cross the corner, go across the street, try to avoid them, and then go back down on the other side of the street to catch my bus. And Krishna's mercy, there was Bhagavan's wife, Krishna Bhamini, had spotted me doing this every day. So one day I'm waiting in the light, looking around, can I avoid them? And she comes up to me and says, Hare Krishna. And she's, just unbelievably beautiful personality. And physically, mentally, everything. The way she presented herself was just just mind-boggling. And, she starts to talk to me about Krishna consciousness and convinces me to take a back to Godhead. I think we had to give a quarter then or something. And, I gave the quarter and got the back to Godhead. And, took it home with me. And I sat down and started to read it. And I was like, oh my gosh, all these things, I don't really, know them, how it's all put together and what it all means. But it feels like it's something that I've always known. It feels like it's something that, I've always been seeking. It just hit me really, really deeply. And so, naturally I contacted my best friend, and we went to the temple, and, the chanting together. And the thing that really hit me was they had, every night they had, halva and hot milk. Ugh. Yeah, it was like, oh, it's the end of the day. Sit around talking about Krishna consciousness. Everybody's really happy from the kirtan, and just taking this on, food like I've never experienced before. I don't think I ever had hot milk before, but you mix that with halava, and like, whoa, just it's just unbelievable. So I kept coming back, at least half because of the halava and hot milk, but I kept coming back, and eventually the philosophy started to sink in, and I asked the temple president Bhagawan if I could move in, and he said, "No, you're not ready yet." And I'm like, "Oh no, what am I gonna do?" So at that time I had gone back to my parents, and I was living with my parents, and I thought, okay, I have to show Krishna that I'm willing to renounce everything. So I moved out of my parents' house into the back of my friend's van, and I was living in my friend's van for like maybe a week or so. And finally I went to Bhagwan, the temple president, and said, I've given up everything. I'm living in a van. What was that? The van down by the river? Well, where was that from? I can't remember. Anyway, not by the river, but I was living in a van, and Bhagawan finally said, okay, you can move in. And I moved in. I was a brahmachari, and at that time it was such an early time of Krishna consciousness that everyone was doing arti, and you didn't have to wear dhoti or anything to do arti. You could just do arti in blue jeans and stuff. So the first day I was there, they said, "Would you like to do arti?" And I said, "I don't really know how to." They said, "We'll show you." So they had me, offer arti, and it was to these little Jagannath deities, which I was just trying to meditate on giving myself through the agency of the incense and stuff like that, and just really hit me powerfully. And I've always, ever since then, I've always really been particularly attached to Jagannath deities. So when I started a temple in Chicago, the first deities that we got were, of course, little Jagannaths, and we got this building somehow or other by Krishna's grace. We found this empty, big, old, huge building, and found out who the. Have I told this story? Have you heard this before? No. Okay. Anyway, found this huge, amazing building in Evanston, 2 blocks from Northwestern University. I mean, Evanston was pretty high class community, so it was just, but it was vacant. It was empty. And so we found out the owner, and it turned out it was the previous colored Negro YMCA. So that by that time they had just kind of merged them together and didn't have segregation anymore. So we got this building because nobody wanted it, and we went to the owner and said, well, we like to get this building. And he said, oh, I've been trying to do something about it for a long time. The city keeps hassling me. And I don't know whether I said or he said, but he said, okay, the perfect way to really stick it to the city is to give it to us. And he went along with that. And before he knew it, there were the Hare Krishna devotees in this building that the city didn't want occupied. And but we were, we had a good, I think what was called American Civil Liberties Union lawyer who was protecting our religious rights. So the city kept trying to get us out, but they could never succeed. So from there, Prabhupada came to visit us twice there, And of course it was, an old YMCA, so it is gigantic gymnasium, and we converted the gymnasium into an amazing temple room with an amazing Vyasasan for Srila Prabhupada with like a big canopy over it, and it was just so glorious. And I remember Prabhupada, when he first came there, he walks into the temple room, and I'm standing there. I was the temple president, standing there with the temple president of Los Angeles, who was Jai Tirtha at the time. And Prabhupada looks right at Jai Tirtha and says, "Better than Los Angeles." And I was like, yeah. Jai Tirtha was like, ugh. And then sure enough, Jai Tirtha goes back, and they redo their temple room solid marble. So there was that kind of, Prabhupada encouraged like transcendental competition in that way, trying to please. And of course, Prabhupada, stayed most of the time in Los Angeles. And, a few times we drove out from Chicago to Los Angeles to see Srila Prabhupada. And I remember the first time, it was like maybe a couple of years after Sudarshan was born. And so we both, Srilek and I came into the Prabhupada's room, offered our Dandavat. Sudarshan comes running in, runs right up to Prabhupada's desk and looks at the picture, and he goes, "Banod, Banod." And Prabhupada's eyes get really big, and he says, "He knows Bhakti Vinod." And then, unfortunately, Sudarshan immediately starts like knocking everything off of Prabhupada's desk. So Srileka grabs him and hauls him out, and he's screaming and yelling. And I'm like, oh my God, right in front of Srila Prabhupada, what are we going to do? And Prabhupada looks at me and says, "You can tell he's very intelligent." And I said, And he said, "Because he's a big rascal." Yeah, so that was like Sudarshan's introduction to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada always liked him. He used to, somehow or other, he was really young, but later, after we left Chicago, we went to Dallas, and Prabhupada used to stay in Dallas a lot because the Gurukula was there. And we used to sit in his classes for, 45 minutes or something, and Sudarshan would just sit there rigid, back straight, listening to Srila Prabhupada. And then afterwards, he would always run up to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada would, every time, like, rub his head. So, Sudarshan got some, like, blessings from Srila Prabhupada, even when he was, like, little, tiny, tiny person, like 3 years old or something like that. So I always took it like, well, Prabhupada has rubbed his head, so he's okay. I never really had much worries about Sudarshan because I knew he was going to be, going to be in the right direction because of his contact with Srila Prabhupada. And sure enough, it turned out in that way. And even like today, he's like, 50-something, and he still has a, even though his guru is Srila Govinda Maharaj, but he still has a really like deep, heartfelt connection with Srila Prabhupada. And, it's like naturally, it's not surprising. And even Srila Govinda Maharaj, somehow or other, when he was giving initiation, he gave initiation to Sudarshan and my older daughter Kishore, my younger daughter Jayashree. He gave initiation to them all together at one time, because they had all been connected with a previous guru. Because for a while there, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, told us that he was not going to take disciples, and that these particular disciples should accept, particular disciples were appointed as gurus, and that they should accept disciples. So they'd all taken initiation with one of these different gurus. But over time, Srila Govinda Maharaj decided to accept disciples. And at that point, I think, the guru that they had was having difficulty or had become a little offensive or something. I forget. But anyway, at that time, Srila Govinda Maharaj was so kind, and pulled them all in, and together gave them his connection. So they've been lifelong disciples of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, and of course, that connection has like totally blessed their lives. Somehow or other, all three have become, like mature devotees. Each one, like we all do, dealing with their own particular circumstance in the world, having to maintain ourselves and stuff like that. But at the same time, keeping Krishna consciousness as the like central point. Even Kishori, my older daughter, she had initially a bad marriage that was maybe arranged by me, I forget. But it was, anyway, I tried. But anyway, it turned out the guy was a nice devotee, but he had this like mean streak, which nobody saw. And of course, Kishori got a bit of the brunt of it, and eventually had to leave. And later, she had this job in the summer working at Yellowstone as some kind of guide or something, I forget. But and when she was in Yellowstone, she met this ranger, Eric, and they immediately hit it off, and so they're married now. And she's like still practicing Krishna consciousness, and he's a little neutral, but he's really positive and really encourages her in that direction. And I think that, over time he's going to develop in a deeper and deeper way. Maybe it'll, take beyond this lifetime. Who knows? But he's definitely like, by connection with her, he's like, locked himself into the, the path of Krishna consciousness. How did I get there talking about Kishori? What was I talking about?
We were talking about the early days of Krishna consciousness. And
oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Chicago temple you were talking about.
now Sri Ashram met Srila Prabhupada and knocked everything off his desk.
Right. That was in L.A. That was like, Sri Lanka was absolutely mortified. But when I told her what Srila Prabhupada said, she was like, what? Like, how is that possible? But, who can say what is the vision of the pure Vaishnavas? I mean, they see hearts. And, of course, he always told us that the kids that are going to be born into the families of his disciples were, souls who have chosen, that particular family and that particular circumstance to take birth in, because it will be, auspicious for their Krishna consciousness. So, all of us, disciples of Prabhupada at that time, who started to have kids, we all took it that, these kids, we may not be very Krishna conscious or have that great of a future, but these kids, they'll be the ones that will help us, and they'll be the ones that will save us. And sure enough, it's turned out that way. I mean, subsequent to that, there was, my older daughter Kishori, my younger daughter Jayashree, and, like I said, anyway, both are glowing in Krishna consciousness, and, I just feel like so fortunate that somehow or other Krishna has allowed these personalities to, come forward in Krishna consciousness without being distracted. I mean, one of them was a little distracted for a while in high school, I think, for, with ganja and stuff like that. But, even Srila Gurudev said, this ganja thing is not a big deal. It's just, I mean, even somehow or other, I don't remember exactly what he said, but even less so than like alcohol and stuff like that. Somehow or other, he perceived that there was something there that was not so like fully like entangling and inebriating like like alcohol and stuff. So, of course, they left that behind. And of course, Srila Govinda Maharaj encouraged everyone to leave that behind. But I think, just part of his kindness was not that, oh, if you're doing that, you're doomed or something like that. He was never like that, practically in any way. It was always like, don't worry, everything is open for you in Krishna consciousness. I don't see, Krishna doesn't see. Whatever's done in the past is the past. Now, live in the now. Live right now, that you have, an opportunity to, put your life in the direction of surrendering to the line of Krishna consciousness, to having the, the unbelievable opportunity to get the shelter of all these great souls. Every one of them, we have we have the chance to look into the life and the nature and the way, the way they function with disciples and all that, which each one of these amazing great gurus, to consider the position of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Who can imagine disciples, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Sridhar Maharaj? We never met him or anything, but just seeing those disciples, who can imagine the position of that guru? I mean, wow, unimaginable that, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj bowed down to him and gave him their lives. These so amazing personalities. And, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was he was graduated from, I forget the university, but it was a very,
Scottish.
huh?
Was it Scottish?
Oh yeah, Scottish College, right. And Prabhupada was there. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj graduated with high standards. And, we all heard that, or can hear now even, in his lectures, he's way more expert in English than any of us. It's true. He was, his presentation, of course it has to do with his, his spiritual weight also, no doubt. But the combination of his understanding of English that, has come also from a devotional position. He knew and knows how to utilize specific words to elucidate, to increase our understandings of what Krishna consciousness is through specific wording that hits us in a deep way. I mean, any of us can now sit down and listen to a lecture of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and it's so amazing. And then, you listen to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, and it's so also amazing. And he was very well versed in Shastra and so many quotes and things like that. But even Prabhupada turned to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Before he came to America, he asked for the blessings of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, because it was the order of their guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for Prabhupada to go to the West. But before Prabhupada went, he wanted to take the blessings from the representative of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who Prabhupada, everybody, but Prabhupada also saw as there in Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. So when Prabhupada, we were with Prabhupada from, I joined late 1969, and he was here with us until 1977. And at that time, he had gone off to India, and I was going to go to India to stay with him, but I had I was in the midst of developing a life membership program in Los Angeles, and I prayed, and I think it was right, maybe not, but I got this feeling, this realization that Prabhupada would rather that I engage in that service than come to see him and be at his bedside. And anyway, looking back, I'm glad for that, because I don't think I could have handled even now and then I see a picture of Srila Prabhupada in bad health that is just too heavy, man. It's too heavy to see. Knowing Srila Prabhupada at the full point of his vitality. And, for all of us, it's just a lesson that, everything in the material world runs out. The great souls also get old and eventually leave us. And, all part of the lesson about our position in the material world and the urgent necessity of utilizing the time that's at hand now. I mean, we're always told that you have this time in hand now. Take it. Because, we could be driving down the driveway and pull out into the Rodeo Gulch Road and wham, that could be it. That's our position in the material world, even though, I don't know what, some kind of nature, survival nature or something makes us think that that's not the case. But the fact is it is. Anytime we're out of here, anytime the body ends, anytime, who knows what's going to hit us. We just can't, we can't depend on our circumstance in the material world, even though our nature is so much to think that, okay, now I've set myself up, I'm okay, everything is fine. But, it's really not. I mean, it's not that it's wrong in trying for that, because we have to survive in the material world, but we always have to remember the proper, the proper context, that we are surviving in the material world because this is like the rare opportunity to engage in devotional service, the rare opportunity to serve a great Vaishnava. I mean, I remember thinking, look around the world. There's how many, what is it now? How many billion people?
Close to 8 billion now.
Oh my gosh. I think I remember when it was 1 billion. But anyway, there's billions and billions and billions of people. And, everywhere in the world, there's so many people everywhere. And somehow or other, things have been arranged in such a way so that we have come in contact with these very few, one of 8 billion, or 2 or 3 of 8 billion, or 4 or 5 of 8 billion, whatever it is. We've just somehow or other been given that kind of grace. And, to keep reminding ourselves of that, and to keep solidifying ourselves in that understanding that, wow, I got this chance. I really can't blow this. So, moment to moment it's like that, but also it's okay, how do I structure my life in such a way so that I'll be situated in Krishna consciousness for my whole life? That's a conscious opportunity that we all have to make choices that go in the direction of becoming more and more entangled in Krishna consciousness, as opposed to making choices that might keep us at the peripheral or something like that. There's always this opportunity how to go deeper. In Salt Lake City, we have a beautiful temple and we do preaching and stuff like that. But to have the opportunity to come to here, to Soquel, this beautiful ashram, and be with Srila Janardhan Maharaj, it's every time, even though it's happening every year, and Srila Janardhan Maharaj is my my old friend, I first got to know him when he was in India and I was the temple president in Chicago, and we kind of, had some exchange because he was one of the early, like, solid India people. I think there was only like 4 or 5 of them. But, Srila Janardhan Maharaj was one. And the fact that they stayed in India for like years on end was just unbelievable for us, completely mind-boggling for us. Because India, in the 70s, India was not easy at all. You couldn't find bottled water. You had to look around and talk to locals and find out, which pump doesn't make you sick. And sometimes you were wrong, and I got sick many times in India in those days. And now, you go to India, it's bottled water, and the prasadam is nicely cooked and carefully prepared, and, you don't get hit so much like you did then. But back then, every time I went to India, I got pretty badly sick. Just being in that, the atmosphere of India at that time, it was not very developed and not very, easy or possible even for Westerners. Yet, Srila Janardhan Maharaj and a few others just went in there and just dug in and did it, which was like really, even to this day, I consider that like amazingly worshipable, because it was a tremendous sacrifice. It was, just like the sign of full dedication and accepting Srila Prabhupada, to the point where literally they were right there every day, practically resisting death. Resisting death? Is that the right word? Or, yeah, okay. Anyway, at least
avoiding death.
Yeah, at least confronted by death every day, and having to resist that in careful ways. I remember going to India at first. It was you had to be really careful about everything you did. It was a tough place. I think I first went in maybe 72 or something like that, and I stayed for maybe a month or two. Eventually, I stayed for as long as 6 months, but generally not any longer than that, because usually by that time I had gotten myself pretty sick. Excuse me. I got a little bit here. What do they call it? Swallowed down the wrong throat. Okay, that kind of jumbled me up. What was I talking about? And better remember.
You went to India. Oh, you were in India in 1972, but you couldn't stay very long because you would usually get sick.
Right. And it was really fortunate that Srila Prabhupada considered there was different zones of preaching service throughout ISKCON. Prabhupada had set it up like that, and there was like a GBC, governing board commissioner, who was in charge of each zone. I was in Midwest America, and Bhagawan was in charge, and West Coast was Jayatirtha, and East Coast at that time, this guy named Bali Mardan was in charge. And throughout the world there was different people in charge of different zones. But for India, Prabhupada himself was the GBC. He took personal charge of India. He took personal charge of, which temples to open when, who to send where, stuff like that. And I had this really good friend, I think there was two of them. Anyway, this really nice devotee and another, we were all asked to send devotees to India. And what is this? It begins with a P. Can't remember. Anyway, we were asked to send these devotees to India, maybe 2 from each temple or something like that. And because, they needed people in India. And the people I sent were amazing. They just wound up spending their entire life in India. And, for that I just have such, feeling and respect that they stayed in the place, however difficult it was, that Srila Prabhupada asked them to stay in. And after Prabhupada's departure, they just continued to stay there. And practically their whole lives. Maybe they moved around a little in India, but practically they gave their full life to service in India. And the guy I'm thinking of eventually got married to a Gujarati lady, and they had kids and settled down in India. And as far as I know, he's still there. I don't think he left his body yet. But yeah, just drop everything, drop every consideration, and just serve Srila Prabhupada. That was, I think, particularly Prabhupada had some kind of special potency in that way, undoubtedly coming from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but a special potency in that way to get people to totally dedicate themselves to Krishna consciousness. When I remember when I was temple president in Chicago, there was, devotees in the temple and a few people on the outside, but mostly it was devotees in the temple only. And if someone came and was interested, they didn't stay outside, they joined the temple. So everybody was pretty much in temples at that time. And, there was a few married Indians and stuff like that who started to come, particularly in Chicago. We did a special, I think we were the first to do a special, I went through the phone books and picked out every Patel and Parikh and Agarwal and everything else, and, sent an email to them. And sure enough, they all started coming. Even in the beginning when we had just little Jagannath deities upstairs, Indians started to come. And because we were the only temple in Chicago, they were super supportive. And, they helped us financially. They brought people from India. I remember being invited to India associations to have kirtan and talk. And, these people were, not just kind of like outside Indians, but they were right there with us. It was quite, quite amazing to experience that somehow or other, maybe it was Prabhupada's potency, maybe their own, I don't know how it works, but they were just so immersed and so dedicated. It was really inspiring. And, I remember sometimes going to their houses and their kids, everybody is just, was just absorbed in Krishna consciousness. That was the main consciousness in their household. A lot of these Indians were like doctors or in good material positions and stuff like that, but they weren't caught up in that at all. I think they'd come to America to get into those kinds of positions, but once having gotten into those kind of positions, they realized that, this really isn't where it's at. What we had was the real thing in life. So they started to come to the temple based on that, that existing experience of kind of having to become materially successful, and realizing that that wasn't at all what was what they wanted. They wanted something better. They wanted something higher. And they realized that what they wanted was something that they had left behind. And, even though throughout India there's so many different interpretations and, there wasn't really much, I don't know if I should say, but not much potency compared to the potency of Srila Prabhupada. So when they came to our temples at the time of Srila Prabhupada, they were just absolutely blown away, because this was like the essence of the society and the culture and the religion within which they had been raised. I remember so many of them telling me, this is just like what my grandma used to tell me. They were given, life by Srila Prabhupada. And of course that has expanded massively, perhaps even, somehow or other to the dead. I don't know if you can put the two together or not, but there's not so many Western devotees still in ISKCON in America. They're mostly Indians. And, how that developed or why it happened, I don't exactly know why. But, in the beginning, it was, all Western devotees who had joined by the potency of Srila Prabhupada and the experience of living a life of like real meaning in the temples. And, from there, from that experience, Indians who came saw, wow, these people are really doing what, what we should be doing, or what, even India should be doing. They saw like that, and they, they happily joined and happily tried to help us. What time is it? Any questions? Comments? Realizations?
So how to stay focused on them? There's so many distractions.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, it's a matter of gradually structuring your life in such a way so that that's like the whole direction of it. I know it's not so easy when you have to work and stuff like that and live outside and things. But, obviously, both Srila Prabhupada and Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, they gave us these temples so that they could serve as like a center of, like real consciousness that we could take shelter of and come closer and closer to our like inner desire to be connected with our beloved gurus. It's like, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's like it's a manifestation of consciousness that like has structure and has personalities and so many different things like that. But it's the consciousness of our divine gurus that pervades things. So the more that we can like position ourselves in such a way so that we're exposed to that consciousness, whether it's like every day listening to talks by our beloved gurus, regularly, morning and night if you can, just opening the morning with some recitation of what our gurus have taught, closing the day with like remembrance of what our gurus have given us. These kinds of things will, at least, I found in my experience, they'll like give fortification to your life and direction to your life. I mean, I lived kind of a, normal life. I mean, I was in temples a lot, but, Sri Lanka and I were married for 35 years. And that's a long time. And I think I was lucky because she was quite a serious devotee. And, but we always had, morning program, some kind of small evening program. Sometimes we missed it and stuff, but, that was like the the basic structure and the basic like purpose behind behind our marriage. We knew that we're married because of the desire of our gurus, and because of the desire of our gurus to bring Vaishnavas into this world, to like what's the word, like fortify Vaishnavism for future generations by building kids in a family that are fixed in Krishna consciousness, encouraging them to build families, and so on and so on and so on. And in that way, Krishna consciousness will be preserved, and not only preserved, but also like expanded in a powerful way. And of course, there's a difference between like Krishna consciousness that is just a kind of like societal social structure, and Krishna consciousness which carries real internal substance. And I find that in the teachings of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, which so much reinforce and like solidify the teachings of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Of course, I have friends in ISKCON who are serious devotees, and they're good devotees. And I know of others who are just not very serious about Krishna consciousness, and that not really so much connected with our mott, but connected with ISKCON, and like having been older devotees who joined around the time that I did and stuff like that, who have kind of like floated themselves into a position of I don't know how to describe it, but kind of like a positive but neutral position in relation to Krishna consciousness, and applying Krishna consciousness like practically in a day-to-day way, so that Krishna consciousness will be reinforced in your own self, and also reinforced by by those who we associate with. It's just like that. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Anybody?
I have a big question.
Okay.
To speak about because microphone. My big question, to help remind myself as well. Can you hear me?
That's on.
My big question, to also help remind myself, is also, could you speak about how to respect and honor Tulsi Devi properly? Like things like, one question I have is, do we chew Tulsi when we receive her, or do we swallow? What's the best way to honor Tulsi Devi when we're taking Tulsi Mahaprasad?
Yeah, I wish I could cite something that I've heard from our gurus. But the way I've taken it is that we have to, honor and respect the mercy of Srimati Tulsi Devi. So it's like, I think not so much whether you chew or swallow or this or that, but to be in consciousness of somehow or other the mercy of Brinda Devi, who is the 100,000,000% surrendered devotee. Her mercy has now been extended to me in the form of this amazing leaf. So, let me just honor it, and according to the directions of our guru, let it be imbibed into my very being. Like myself, I kind of just I think just leave it in my mouth, and I don't know if it melts or not, but kind of eventually just swallow it. Somehow or other I never chew it. I don't know why, whether that's just my own hang up, or whether it's a better thing to do or not. But it seems like that, I don't know, this is speculation. But chewing it seems to like almost reduce it to some kind of food thing or something.
Today, and the other day also, I was seeing in the tea kettle accidentally somehow, somebody must be putting some maha water in the teapot to boil, which seems beautiful until you see Tulsi Devi boiling around and rolling around, which, a lot of people in America, they're having, Tulsi tea. So then, like, the distinction between, like my parents wouldn't buy a cultivated from the store, Tulsi plant. Or
Different,
plant
yeah, of
from
course.
seed, but like, I wonder if you wanted to speak about that. And then what are some of those rules? And then I'm like, well, if we're going to chew Tulsi Devi, then can we be boiling Tulsi Devi? I mean, or obviously not. We don't want to boil Tulsi Devi, but then it's like, okay, then that asks me the question, then are we really chewing, or how are we really properly, respectfully receiving? So
yeah, something hit me for a minute, now I lost it, but basically it has to do with the consciousness that we carry, like in relation to Srimati Tulsi Devi. Obviously she's in a position of full honor, and whatever we receive from her is like something that we're not deserving of, something that, it's not just like, add it with your prasadam or something, but something that is, even with prasadam, it's a very special thing, because she's a very special personality, and her whole being is to give and to live a life of, like, down to the branch and leaf and everything else. Everything is there for offering. Everything is there for giving. So I think it's a little tough to make specifics about what to do, what not to do, because everybody kind of approaches things in a little bit different way, right? So it just seems to me that to like respect and honor Srimati Tulsi Devi, for me, like, I think like you're agreeing, is that to just like choose Srimati Tulsi Devi is something that somehow places it into or places the consumption of her mercy into like a different category or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It seems like you honor Srimati Tulsi Devi, feel her mercy, pray to her for, to feel something of what it is that is her life, and allow that to be like imbibed into your whole your whole system. Yeah, we have to be careful that it's not just, oh well, you take Tulsi Devi, you take prasadam, you take this, like anything, because we're living in Krishna consciousness, because things become like normal to us, which actually are unbelievably special. You got to constantly kind of be on top of yourself about remembering what you're doing, who you're dealing with, and what is your like position. We have to like work on being conscious of what's going on like around us, what's going on in relation to the descent of mercy. We're by the grace of our gurus, we're like living in a circumstance where mercy is descending all the time, through people, through circumstances, through everything. Krishna is the controller, and specifically because we're trying to serve his beloved servants, the manifestation of how Krishna is working can become like more and more apparent to us. Sometimes it's just like, wow, I can see that. and then later it's just you can't see, everything seems ordinary. But gradually Krishna's manifestation in like amazing ways will not necessarily become like constantly like you're zapped with some amazing experience, but where you begin to like live in a different kind of world. That's what our like real prospect is. That we can live in a world like looking at our hand and looking at this form that we're in and almost really know this isn't what's going on. This isn't me. Wow, I'm like inside. And I have a relationship right now with my gurus on the level of who I really am. And ultimately with Krishna. I have this, this kind of thing has been given to me. And, like to work on remembering that and appreciating that and seeing that. And, everything about Krishna consciousness is put together in such a way, so, like a really, the more you look into it, the more it's like amazing mystical way that things have been arranged by our gurus and ultimately by Krishna to help us along the way in our realizations. But like anything, constantly it requires us to focus on that, to try to remember that. And, it's a lifelong project, no doubt. You keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying. But having tried, the position that you may kind of, what's the word, like the position of normalcy after each try becomes a little bit better. It may not be so easily perceptible, but if you think about it, any one of us, if we think about it like over years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 50 years, you're a whole different person. The way you perceive things is totally different. You can look out at the road and the trees and everything else, and in one sense, it appears, structurally the same as before, but because we've been exposed to the reality of Krishna consciousness, there's something much more to it. Like somehow the trees here are like alive. Maybe it's just because we focus on them, but it seems like even more so than, like, look at the bark in that tree, my gosh. Even more so than what we may ordinarily experience outside. Krishna consciousness has kind of like, of course we all know, like collective potency. When we're with people who are looking in the same way that we are, we feel more of what it is. That's why, we hear again and again and again, association is the most important thing. So, to be with people who are like sincerely looking in the same direction, that kind of sincerity like naturally rubs off. It's so like, we don't always see it or feel it because we have ordinary dealings and stuff, but, to like be with a Vaishnava, or even they may consider aspiring Vaishnava, who like wants the same thing as you, that's like so rare and so, so incredible. We're so like lucky that somehow or other by our guru's arrangement, we're all, together. Even though we may live in different places and stuff like that, it helps to be together like we are now. But, simultaneously, there's a finer thing, a more subtle thing that's going on that, we're told by our gurus that will link us always. We'll always be friends. We'll always know each other. Sometimes people wonder, well, is that possible that, we'll know each other? I don't know. My feeling is, yeah. That, in the spiritual world, we'll like know each other and remember that we were trying together and stuff. It just seems like more sweet and natural that it's going to be like that, as opposed to like, okay, you go to the spiritual world and you take this role, and somebody else will be in another role, and you'll be. It's, there's stuff like that is there. Roles are there, but it's more pervaded with the element of love and personal exchange, which is what we're starting to, be able to experience. And, I'm just talking. I don't know. The future of how that manifests, I don't know. But just feels like I'll be with all my friends. Just like that, yeah. Wow, how cool, huh? I mean, we're all going to be together. All right.
You are extra cool.
Well, somehow cool rubs off. I guess that's it. Okay, I guess we're pretty much done, huh? Yeah.
Can I say one more? I was
Sure.
in Vrindavan at the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and they have the whole museum library of Srila Prabhupada, and you can see on the walls all the books from around the world,
Yep.
and the scripture in every single picture. And Ramachandra and Sita and Mahananda Prabhu at the time was there. And then I'm thinking, here's a whole photo library of all these pictures of Srila Prabhupada. And I start going through the book, and we start looking for all the devotees that we can find. And, I was trying to find my mother and my father.
Uh-huh.
And then I turn a page, and there you are. I've given Sudarshan a picture and Kishori a picture. I bought a picture of you with Srila Prabhupada way back when.
Really? Wow.
There are a lot of people.
Yeah, well, that's, that kind of stuff is, when you see pictures of things like, sometimes I'll see a picture of the temple room in Chicago, and Srila Prabhupada is seated, because we made a high Vyasa-san, seated there as Vyasa-san, and I get to fan him with a peacock fan. It's just like, it's like something happened in the past apparently, but it's not really. Things are, that's like life. I was able to enter into what real life is at that point, maybe we've all been in a circumstance like that where you're somehow they're serving a great soul and you're trying your best, and suddenly it feels different. We're just kind of breaking through into a whole different realm of existence. And somehow or other, it seems to manifest when you're in the midst of service of a great soul. I still remember, I can still see myself, standing there, fanning Srila Prabhupada. I used to meditate on something specifically, but I can't even remember what it is now. It was something really cool. But I don't know. Eventually I'll remember it, I guess. But to have been in a circumstance like that, to some extent we appreciated that. But, it's like any time, any circumstance, you always kind of think, well, this is going to, it's just going to continue. But it doesn't, and it didn't. And, in one hand, you're sad, really sad when Prabhupada departed. It was just crushing. But at the same time, we have all these experiences that are, not exactly memories, but experiences of a different realm of existence that Srila Prabhupada brought to us. And that's never going to leave us. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, those personalities, however small the impact may, relatively seem to us, the effect will be there forever with us. Just a little, like walking by, a little glance. That's like reality. That's it. And you got the chance to have that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The opportunity of, at least a beginning experience of what real life is, that just the presence of the real Vaishnavas gives to us. And, to some extent, just by my talking about these experiences, you guys can get a feeling of it. Even though naturally I feel like, wow, I was there, but I blew it. But, nonetheless, irregardless of our own limitations, the effects of the pure Vaishnava are like lifelong. They'll never leave us. And, beyond life, into the future life, which is like, how do you come to a point where you don't even care about death? I mean, like for me, it's like, oh, well, I hope I don't have to suffer too much. But as far as leaving or anything, it doesn't really bother me. I just kind of think sometimes, well, I really hope that I can be with my friends again. But I think Krishna's kind. Yeah, it'll be that or better, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Okay, what do we do now?
Chat?
Oh, of course. Let me just try to get my foot.
Like more water, Maharaj?
No, I'm fine, thanks. Anybody, are you a good Shannon Rarni?
Not so great.
Okay, better than me, go. Cardals? Mridanga. Right there.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindam.
Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindam.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindam.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Huh?
Just Hare Krishna or more?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Okay. No. Okay.
You want me to chant?
Yes.
Oh. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Sapadagana Shishi Guru Garanga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaka Acharya Varya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaka Acharya Varya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaka Acharya Varya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Jai.
Jai. Hari Hari Bol.